G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by Algared. How you doing, buddy? Good? Staying out of trouble? Yes. This is our second one today. We're doing two of these back to back.
Yeah, back to back, fix my fleets.
Hopefully I'm on a beach somewhere, lazing my ass off at the moment while you guys are watching this. But anyway, all right. Voice in the void today is Great00Nate. How you doing, Nate?
Doing pretty good.
Very early in the morning for you, isn't it? About 5 a.m. I think this one is. So very early.
About 4, actually.
4? My bad. Sorry. Jeez, very early.
That's even worse than our live stream.
Yes, that's terrible. Yeah, welcome to the club. All right, we'll kick it over to the browser. So this is Nate's already very kind of large fleet in my book, Algared. I don't know. Would you consider it large at this size?
I have to say no.
No, it's. I think it's pretty large.
It's large compared to most people's.
It's not large compared to yours.
But, yeah.
All right, Nate. I guess we'll just start and we'll go through, and you can tell us why you got what you got. So you got a Fury here. So I assume this is the flavor of the month at the moment, having Invictus just ended. Is that why I picked that one up?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a one-off ship, and I haven't even really flown it much, but I figured, it's kind of a fun little zippy thing to have.
Yeah, and if anything, it'll turn into an LTI token anyway. So yeah, it's all good. All right. The Pisces C8R. What about that one?
So I do a lot of bunker runs, and I used to take a combat ship up until I started having problems with the higher tiered bunkers. And basically it was small, it was fast. I didn't have to wait forever to do an insurance claim. It had that stage 3 bed in it, so I could heal whatever happened in the bunker. I could fit a one of those large cargo boxes in it to keep all my spoils, and
so it was convenient. Yeah, it was convenient for the bunkers. Okay.
Yeah, it was extremely convenient.
All right, the Arrow.
I picked that one up shortly about the same time it was my first jump town experience. And no matter what ship I brought, there was this one guy that was cleaning everybody out with an arrow. And I was like, there's no way this ship can be that good. So I picked it up on a deal, or at least I thought at the time, and started practicing with it. And I mean, it's been a okay ship. Kind of loaned it out to org mates, when like, hey, I need to borrow something to get from point A to point B. Boom, it's right there.
The Nova.
Yes, the Nova. That I was excited about that purchase. I don't know what it is about it. I just love it,
All right. Similar thing with the Ballista, I assume. Wait, that's not the
correct. Yeah.
No, wait. That's
the Ballista.
That's a Centurion. Is that a Ballista or a Centurion? I can't kind of tell in this dark image. Looks like a Ballista.
That is the Ballista. Yeah, that's the Ballista.
So just more ground.
I got that. Yeah,
and you got
the
Centurion
for, like I said, for Jump Town and Ghost Hollow, just basically protecting teammates and stuff like that.
Same thing, I assume, for the Centurion?
Yep, bought at the same time.
Pirate Gladius?
So that is my trophy. I worked really, really hard to get the Pirate Swarm beat, and the moment that I did beat it, I traded in my Valiant version of that for that, and it's just have it as, a memento of my achievements.
Avenger Titan, this is interesting. A bit of a step down.
That was bought early on. I started out with the Cutter. That was my very first ship with a game package. And then I was kind of impressionable early on. Everybody was saying Cutter, and then everybody was saying Avenger, and I ain't gonna lie. I mean, I bounced early on. I bounced between them both pretty regularly.
Yep.
What about Saber?
That was the first. That was the first larger combat ship that I went to.
Right.
I had a chance to see it in action and was like, well, I want that.
Redeemer?
Redeemer, that was by recommendation. I kind of went into that with some reservations. I mean, I didn't care for the looks at the time, but then they started throwing all the stats at me, and I was like, well, I guess it doesn't look that bad. And then I got it, and that's been my daily driver.
Costs everything.
It's a powerhouse.
Yeah. Similar. I assume this is a kind of similar thing because this is a kind of heavy fighter. So is this a kind of what this is for as well?
Yeah, I got that because that was during my phase of, holy moly, these large size torpedoes are kind of awesome. I can one-shot a lot of things with this.
So I think that's the Sentinel.
I'm sorry,
that's the Sentinel, and this is the Harbinger. So, but same thing though. So tell me about the Sentinel then.
Yep.
Same thing.
So I believe that's actually the Hoplite.
Oh, okay.
The troop carrier. Yeah. So the troop
I think
carrier. I bought.
Nope.
No.
Nope. So I had the Harbinger first. Then I got the Hoplite. The Hoplite was for the added weapon racks and just a different kind of feel to it. I could throw up in global chat, hey, who wants to come do a bunker, and I had space for them.
Similar, I'm assuming.
The Cuddy.
Similar things with bunkers and stuff with the Cuddy.
Correct. Yeah, the Cuddy Black was up. That was my first CCU from my starting cutter. I got into it. I fell in love with it up until the time it started killing me every time I touched it. But yeah.
The Hornet, just another combat ship, because you got a couple here actually. They all kind of fulfill similar roles. Yeah.
The Super Hornet was the pretty much identical story to the Arrow.
Yep.
I got my butt handed to me by it, so I was like, if it's that good, I might as well push myself to try and learn it.
Scorpius?
Scorpius, that was, I picked that up it was, the guy had sent me a DM and asked if I was interested because I had already bought a couple things from him. And he's like, hey, I got this. This is my last one. I just want to get rid of it. And I was like, yeah, sure. And then I kind of ended up liking the having the 4 size 3 weapons on it. And then that was my first entry into taking the gimbals off and using fixed weapons. That was the ship that that was my learning curve ship.
Okay. MSR and Constellation. I guess we can
Star Runner.
Yeah, put these two together. Are these just daily drivers?
Not as much as they used to be. The Connie is what is my original game package CCU'd from the cutter. I like the Cutlass Black variant, or the Cutlass Black stage of that chain. So I once I upgraded to the Connie, I went back and bought the Cutlass Black because I liked it so darn much.
But these two, what do you generally use these two for though? Are they just daily drivers now?
Kind of backups depending on how many people I got come and with me, what we're doing. And
okay, the Retaliator, what do you generally use that for?
So I got the Retaliator because, I mean, at least what I was picking up on out there in the verse was, with its size 9s, that's going to be what you're going to need to start taking on these larger ships. It was, stuff like the Idrises and the Hammerheads and stuff like that.
So I'm going to add the Hercules series together. So you've actually got 3 Hercules. Why all 3? Real quick. So you've got a cargo transporter, a military cargo transporter, and a bomber. Why all 3?
Yeah. So I started out with the C2. It was about the time that I picked up the Ballista,
Makes
the
sense.
Centurion, and my Nova.
Yep.
I was like, well, now I need something to carry it. So looked on the gray market, got that for a deal. And then somebody introduced me to the A2. And I was like, huh, okay. Tried that out, fell in love with it. I ran that for doing my level 2 bunkers. I don't know if it's a glitch in the game, but those turrets always shoot me when I get close. So I bomb each bunker that I go into, and it saves time with having to park far away and drive.
I can see that. Just kill everything. Don't have to worry about anything. All right, yeah, makes sense. Okay, cool. All right, the Hammerhead.
Hammerhead, that was from the very start when I first saw it, or at least heard about it. That was like, that's the ship that I want to get. Like, that was my goal ship.
Okay.
And
So what do you use it for now?
Unfortunately, I think I've only used it twice, to be completely honest. I haven't had much of an opportunity to use it since.
All right. The Carrack?
The Carrack was bought. It was kind of a flash sale. Again, I capitalized a lot on the gray market.
Right. And the Polaris. So what's the Polaris for? What do you use that for?
The Polaris, that was when Invictus hit. I was looking at the schedule, trying to decide, priority. Idris was the number 1 priority. Unfortunately, this was my first Invictus. Didn't quite have like the strategy down.
Mm-hmm.
But that was number 2 on my list, just based off its. It can do a lot of stuff. It's got the torpedoes that I've come to kind of, fall in love with, the larger size.
So it's basically an upgraded version of the Retaliator, essentially.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, so after we kind of went through this, you can kind of see that Nate is impulse bought a lot. To say it mildly. And what he basically essentially told me in Algared is he wanted to do combat of almost every single form. So we went through things like FPS, ground, all those type of things, mercenary, combat, all that type of thing. And then the other one was cargo. So Algared and I, this is a really weird one because me and Algared and I were there going backwards and forth. And we were, well, Algared, you tell in your own words how we were we were literally trying to find ships to fill it out, weren't we? So how would you put it, Algared?
Yeah, we were looking at fleet. We were going, okay. Probably the only one that Nate really loved that we would, in terms of value for money, was saying is really bad was the A2.
Yep.
Because it's literally double the price of I think it's the M2. It just doesn't.
So double the price of the M2, but a couple examples. The Redeemer is $330 versus $750, and the Redeemer costs more in game. The Hammerhead costs more in game, but is cheaper. So there's just it really is just not good value for money.
So just lots and lots of things that it might be a fun ship to own. It might be a fun ship to have. It might have a lot of great purpose. It might be an awesome ship. But in terms of value for money, we just couldn't get behind it.
I think after we talked to Nate a few times, he I think he get. Do you get that now, Nate? The whole reason why we cut that, it's just not good. Like you can earn it in game really easy. Yeah, I think that's kind of the takeaway.
Absolutely, yeah. Drop it from the pledge list and just buy it.
Yeah.
But the other thing was Nate was saying, I want to get an Idris. And we said that's half your Idris.
Yeah, that was that's kind of I think one of the things that sold him.
I think that was I think that was
And it doesn't have
defensively,
LTI at that price either. So
Yeah.
that's the thing. Half these ships have LTI, the other half don't. So that was a part of it. So I think in the end he had 10 LTI tokens, and so
Hmm.
basically a lot of that now will be going. And we couldn't even get to 10 ships, and we didn't get to 10 ships, by the way. That's the thing I want to
Yeah.
point out. So when we go to the next screen, don't freak the hell out straight away, and let us explain. So here we go. Right, this is what we ended up with.
Yeah.
And the reason for that was we were starting to go into ships there were 2 ships that we had that were still inside his purview, but then we started going into ships that were outside combat because there just wasn't combat ships to fill it out. And we were like, well, if we take these 2 ships back, it equaled $2,950. That's $50 short of a javelin. Let's just get the javelin.
Yeah.
So, I'm not sure if it's you, Nate, but are you a co-owner of an org? Or co-leader?
I am not even a co-leader.
Oh, okay.
I'm kind of up in the ranks.
Right.
I'm up in the ranks, but I am not to, co-leader or even third. I'm
you're
about midway, but I'm a team player.
Okay, so we actually when we did this back to back today, we also did this with his or his org leader or one of his org leaders, and we've also talked to your org leader about this as well. So he's actually kind of, I thought he was going to be not good with it, but he's actually okay with it. So and we had to explain a few things to him, because one of the things he was worried about is it doesn't come with weapons. It does come with weapons, but they're just not the most powerful weapons. So it's a fixer-upper is the easiest way to explain it. So you can get it and you can use it, but it's not at 100%. But that's something that your whole org can pitch in and help with, you see. And as your org's a pirate org, yeah?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, Algared, I'll let you talk about the javelin a bit, because you've got one, I don't. So please have it.
Yeah. Look, the javelin is a fixer. It's a ship that's also got 6 modular rooms, not components, but modular rooms. Think of the Galaxy, that middle section in the Galaxy that can be changed out. Galaxy have 6. The javelin has 6 of those, basically. We know that there is at least one version where there was in lore a luxury version of the Galaxy, because one of the Imperators used to, or one of the Mezzas used to run around with a luxury javelin in their luxury suite. That gives a hint that there may be a luxury room in the javelin.
For Algared's Uwu girls, or Old Man Hurston's Uwu girls.
Yeah. But you could have 6 cargo rooms. You could have possibly additional barracks or additional cells or whatever. Could some of those be markets? We don't know.
When we were talking to your org leader, we were even suggesting, as a piracy org, like say you're drawing, like got an Endeavor, because he's got an Endeavor as a drug lab. If you actually have the drug lab, you could fill this thing up, and this could be the escort and the cargo carrier all in one to take it to market. No one's going to stuff with you, are they? If this is, with all these guns on it.
If you've certainly got a javelin sitting next to your Kraken or your Endeavor.
That's not a knife. This is a knife.
That's right. They're going to think twice about attacking, because
it's kind of hard to argue, when you're the one walking around with the biggest stick.
Yeah,
that's it.
So it makes it a bit harder for people to give you grief if you've got something that can punch like a.
I didn't lock the screen out.
Yeah, I know you did.
Right. So the other one that we added that there was a glaring oversight to was the
Nautilus.
The Nautilus, yeah.
And
sorry, I'm allergic to bullshit. My bad. Yeah, the Nautilus. Algared, you can talk about it. Go for it.
So the Nautilus we often look at, especially if people are looking at having Endeavors or Krakens or things like that, because it helps set up that passage defense.
A perimeter.
So it gives you it sets up a perimeter for you. So it gives you an early warning system. It gives you the ability to set those out if you come across an area which, if you're trying to attack someone as well as a pirate org and they've got a minefield, it also is your minesweeper. So,
and you're a little unsure about this one, Nate, but I actually did talk to your org leader about this as well, and I think I don't know. We'll talk to him later, but I think we've convinced him of this one as well, because if you're in your Kraken or your Javelin and you're sitting around, stuffing around, and all of a sudden the sentry turrets outside start firing off this, or a mine starts moving, it's an early warning system where if you're just sitting around and waiting, the first thing that's going to explode is going to be a ship rather than guns firing, so to let you know that something's there. So this is really pivotal ship for your org, and nobody's got one. So yeah.
While the ship itself may not be brilliant, the mines do add a lot to the defensive aspect of the thing.
Yeah.
Now, people might say, "Oh, you've actually got some small ships in there. We've got a Gladius in there."
Yeah.
When have we ever kept the Gladius or kept the fighter in a fleet?
But that's there because that's his baby, as he said earlier.
That's his trophy ship. So we kept that. And so along this line here, these are the 4 ships that he said I really must have.
Yeah.
The only ship he said he really must have or really wanted was the A2, and I think we talked him out of that finally.
It was rough, but I mean, looking at it, I can more stably carry the ground vehicles in the M2. I don't got to worry about them sitting up on the edges of the bomb bay doors and bouncing around while I'm flying.
Yeah.
So.
And we still gave you the M2 because we can see why you needed that, and you've got cargo. So we even gave you a bunch of ships to expand out into. I did make one other small change here. This is now a base, not a bomber. So that's half the price, and you can just earn the modules in game. So hopefully that's easier. But you can also use that as a bit of a cargo ship as well. And you've still got cargo, as we said, on the Polaris, the Hammerhead, and the Javelin, and the Idris, and stuff like that. The other one I'd probably add is you could now. You didn't say this until today, but you've only used this twice. You could also consider swapping that out for Perseus instead if you wanted to go more defensive. So those two are interchangeable. And we did give him a bunch of ships that he can look into if he
because even on that fleet, like although the Idris and the Javelin can't be CCU2, you've got to get those. The other ships, the Pirate Gladius can't be LTI because of the way it is. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of the 10 LTI tokens are
still
used.
Got 3 left.
Still got 3.
And we actually gave him 4. I can't remember. I don't think we need to even mention them, but basically, yeah, he's still got alternatives that he can go into, and obviously just keep the smallest LTI tokens that you possibly can as in value. But Matt, how long have you been here, by the way, Nate? I think that's important to let people know too. How long have you been in the game?
So I backed it in 2013, but
yeah, I know you did. But like since
you playing since December.
Yeah, so
since December of last year.
Yeah, so he hasn't been here. That's a lot of expenditure for that short, 6 months essentially. So yeah, that's a lot of expenditure in a short period of time. So I think you're definitely going to be putting more money into the game, just knowing that you've got a bad habit, like a lot of us here. So yeah, I don't think I don't have really much concern that those 4 ships that we recommended to you won't come to fruition at some point.
And any regular viewers can probably guess 2 of those ships that we put on the slide. But
these let's just mention them then. So the Crucible, it was actually in a preferential order. I think the Crucible was first, the Banner Merchantman, and it's the third one I'm forgetting, and the last one was the Endeavor. But what was the third one?
The Perseus.
Perseus. So there you go. So they're all there, but the Crucible, for obvious reasons, repairing a big ship like this and all that, his orgs only got 1 of them. The Banner Merchantman, because he talked about cargo, and really we don't have a real super dedicated cargo ship. I know people will argue with me about the M2, but the M2 is really a troop deployer, as in the vehicle deployer. It's cargo as a secondary option. Well, for example, it doesn't have a tractor beam, so it can't do any cargo stuff in space, as an example. Banner Merchantman is a lot more dedicated, and it gives him shops and things like that, especially in a piracy org. Shops are going to be really valuable for selling your wares off and things like that. Perseus, pretty obvious with the Hammerhead, as we've said, and then the last one is the Endeavor, just because his org only has 1 Endeavor.
And we had LTI tokens sitting there.
Yeah.
And I, so yeah, it was just one of those things. We're going, what else can we add into the fleet? And in the end, we just said, look, we got these extras. These are suggestions.
So yeah, it gives him things to work in towards and go towards. Nate, I put this back to you because I think you were a bit surprised when we recommended Javelin. I think you kind of were a bit taken back. You tell me your thoughts there on how this is rounded out for you.
Well, I mean, I was. It was more of a shock, like, oh my gosh, that's the Javelin. It's like outside. I think the Bangle. From the little bit of research that I've been able to do, the Javelin's as far as I know, the second or it's in the top 3 for most expensive ships.
It is.
I mean,
It is the most expensive ship a player can buy.
Okay, so yeah, and it was like, oh my gosh, like how are they gonna, put the Javelin in there, and like there's not going to be much of anything left to really build with. But I mean, with what you guys have taught me about the earn down and the CCU chains and stuff, and doing it properly.
That's the other thing. None of these are CCU chained either. So you can even bring them down further. That's the thing. And obviously, as Algared said, you can't do that for the Aegis or the Javelin. But if you start to do it for the Polaris, the Nautilus, the Hammerhead, and all the others, you'll probably get another free ship in there just from the discounts that you get.
That's probably the really key thing to point out here. These ships were being built using its LTI tokens that he already had and the credits he had.
Yeah.
So everything in there is using credits that he already had,
and
how much
he'd already spent essentially.
Yeah. And just consolidating the fleet into maximizing the gameplay that he was saying he wanted. And I think I tended to think that probably the only ship that we didn't really have covered in terms of all things combat was a troop boarding ship.
Yeah, you did bring that up. But I came back and said, but that's an earning game because it's so cheap.
But the cheap was the ship that's available at the moment. The
Legionnaire.
The Legionnaire is dirt cheap compared to being able to get a Javelin or an Idris or even a Polaris or so that's an earning game and or something you can look at down the track. But yeah, that's about the only thing we were missing. And we did get rid of his, one of the things we did get rid of was his hoplite. But even the Redeemer can be a troop transport in a form based on its some of the variations, or we'll get down the track. So
there are other people in his org that, because one of the things about his org is there was a lot of people with smaller ships. So that's something. And we have actually talked to your org leader and yourself, and we are looking at possibly doing our first ever Fix My Org fleet. So we'll see how that pans out. But we've got some things working in the background. We'll see how that goes. But Nate, overall, are you kind of happy, sad, ecstatic, depressed? Like, how do you feel about this? Now it's all been kind of.
I love everything that you guys have, put up there. It took me a couple minutes to kind of get over the wound of they got rid of my precious A2. But the only thing, I love everything that you guys have up there. The only disagreement that I have, right now, is the Retaliator base compared to the Bomber. But
you want to
even sitting now,
if you want to change it, man, you change it. That's just our recommendation based on trying to squeeze every dollar we can out. Because that, if I go back to it, that is literally $50 more. That's only $50 more than what you spent. Right, so we're trying to match what you've already spent, right, and that's why that's that way. So if I wanted to, go $200 over, then yeah, you can go back and get the Bomber if you want to do that. But we're just trying to match it to what you've already spent. So that's why that got
exactly.
Cut.
Yeah, and the
go on.
And the Polaris. I mean, that kind of takes the place of the Retaliator Bomber, like you guys did say.
Exactly.
Yeah,
earlier, and it's got 10 times as many too. So.
Well, it comes earned down. Just take the Polaris and earn down and get a Retaliator, or whatever ship. Yeah.
Well, the Polaris has bigger torpedoes than the Retaliator, but then the Javelin has bigger torpedoes
than the Polaris. We didn't mention that. The Javelin's got torpedoes, but yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we tried to, like, he came at us and said, I want every combat. That is like, again, his org's already got Krakens and stuff like that. So yeah, but they didn't have an Idris, and they
even suggest those.
They didn't have an Idris, and they didn't have a Javelin. So he is filling gaps. So he's definitely going into ships that they don't have. So yeah, and again, it's a piracy org. So yeah. All right. Anything you'd like to ask from people in the comments below, Algared?
How we led him down the garden path and take him down an alley and beat him up, and are we giving him a good oil? What do you think? Yeah. Should we have recommended a Javelin, or are we just absolutely crazy? Am I trying to get him to drink the Kool-Aid?
It's a hard one to get to work though, because of he was after very specific things. So yeah, Nate, is there anything you'd like to hear from people below in the comments? You know, any feedback that you would like about your fixed fleet?
No, I mean, I'm just trying to, you know, absorb all the information that, you know, I'm coming into for the first time. Stuff that I've already kind of heard talked about, just it's being explained a little bit more in depth. Just like you guys have said, I've only been in this 6 months, and it's
so
borderline on information overload.
so I'll ask some questions on Nate's behalf then. So do you agree with us cutting the A2 because of the price? Do you agree with us using the base instead of the Retaliator bomber? And I think the last one is, do you think it was a good choice to get the Javelin based on his purview of every combat ship in the game?
And I suppose the other thing is, where can he cut down the value of ships using Warbond CCUs? And what will that give him down the road?
Most definitely. All right, with that then, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and thank you to those people on Patreon that have gone that extra mile to help us out with gear and things like that. Yeah. All right, with that then, I think the voice in the void has been Great00Nate. He's been Algared.
He's been Execute.
We'll catch you in the next one. Say goodbye, Nate.
Thanks, guys.